start by thanking you all very much for coming along today to Empowering Future Generations. We're so excited about what we've got lined up for today, and we're pleased to welcome so many of you to South West Wales' first major circular economy event. In the room today, In the room today, we've got senior executives from businesses, from our colleges and universities, from our local authorities. We've got smaller businesses that are pioneering new products and services to help us all become greener, healthier and happier. We're delighted to welcome some of the UK's leading consultancies in sustainability and circular economy strategy. We've got social enterprises and third sector organisations campaigning to educate, inspire and shift our behaviour towards a more sustainable way of life. We've got circular economy researchers, we've got waste managers, people managers, facilities managers, we've got house builders, developers and construction companies, we've got trade organisations, innovation projects, experts, policymakers, elected representatives, PhD students and entrepreneurs. It is this diversity and this breadth of experience and perspectives that we hope to tap into today. What you can expect is an inspiring and enlightening conversation exploring how we can move this region towards the circular economy and an economy where well-being is placed at the heart of decision-making in all our organisations. Social, economic, environmental and cultural well-being. The thing is, there's been a lot of talk in some circles about a new law called the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, and a lot of thinking and philosophising about something called the circular economy. And there have been plans drawn up and consultations carried out. But some might say there hasn't yet been enough action to actually implement either of these things. And the truth is that somebody has to start behaving differently. If we want a low carbon, zero waste, innovative, productive, prosperous and more equal Wales, as defined in the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, then all of us need to buy in to that vision. It's not just for government to create policy, and it's not just for local authorities and public bodies to change the way they do things. It's not just for people to make different personal lifestyle choices, and it's not just for businesses to invest in sustainability or innovation. The truth is, it's about all of these things. All of us actually wanting to change, making different choices, spending our money differently, and investing in the future well-being of people and places, not just in short-term savings or cost-cutting. And that is the opportunity that this region must embrace, to be among the first to start doing things differently. The payoff will be immense if we genuinely do this. We've got the opportunity to lead the way as the first country in the world to introduce a law to put the well-being of future generations at the heart of decision-making. The world is watching and waiting to see what we do here in Wales in response to this call to action. How do we actually change our behaviour, make different choices, prioritise different values, and transform our economy and society to reflect the aspirations of the Act? Now, I really hope that you've all come here today with an open mind, and I'm fully aware that there are some of us in the room that don't really know what the circular economy is. And in fact, we have with us today Gary Walpole, who's recently undertaken a study of SMEs in Wales and has found that understanding of the term circular economy is pretty poor. And Gary's on our discussion panel, and he believes we need to talk about the circular economy in terms of innovation, which I think comes back to my point about being prepared to think differently and be the first to do something rather than waiting for others to catch that wave. So some of you will know that today's event is the first major event to be delivered by a new organisation, the Centre for Regional Engagement for the Region, which has been recently founded in Swansea by 3 local entrepreneurs, myself, Dawn Lyle, my colleague, Zoe Antrobus, and our business partner, Georgios Dimitropoulos. Now, For the Region is a purpose-driven organisation, by which I mean that we're in business because of a higher sense of purpose, a mission, if I can use that word, which is all about engaging people and organisations in transforming this region for the benefit of everyone who lives here. Now, like many of you in this room, we love living in South West Wales. We love Swansea. But we are not blind to the high levels of poverty, deprivation and inequality that exist here, and the fact is that business as usual has failed to deliver well-being for significant parts of the population. The difference is that we're not resigned to thinking these things have to be this way. We see enormous potential in the people and the businesses and the region as a whole. We live in a beautiful, friendly, coastal, natural, distinctive part of the world, and one which has not yet been completely lost to the forces of urbanisation, globalisation, commercialisation. We have the potential to develop as a region differently from other places, to learn what not to do from the mistakes of others and from the past, to see our challenges as opportunities, and to embrace our own way of creating health, wealth and well-being for all. And we believe that the secret to doing that lies in better regional engagement, by which we mean all of us working better together across sectors of society and sectors of industry, and engaging everyone in thinking about the future that we want. We want individuals and businesses to realise that the future of this region is in our hands. We can't look to UK government to solve our problems. We can't rely on global corporations to invest in our own best interests. Instead, we need to unlock our own potential, take ownership, innovate and collaborate, and find our own way to a flourishing society and economy. So today is part of that. We really want this to be a collaborative effort to share ideas and experience, to learn from each other. So we'll be asking for lots of participation. Be prepared to ask questions and share your thoughts on what you hear, both in the conference this morning and in the workshops this afternoon. And we want everyone to come away from today with a shared sense of purpose. Why should we change? How might we change? And a personal sense of commitment to being the change that we want to see. As you go through the day, pick up the post-it notes that you'll find around the room and in the workshops this afternoon, and make a note of your key insights and ideas, things that strike you as interesting, quotes, keywords, actions and takeaways. And we're asking you to put those post-it notes on the A0 boards in the foyer to collate our ideas and actionable implementable strategies. And also, please engage online. You should have received a card with our Twitter handles and hashtags, and you'll find hashtags to most of the organisations here today in the programmes. So please tweet your questions and thoughts as we go along, and we've got our buddies here from Cloudco Creative who look after our social media to pick up comments and questions on Twitter. And we're also running a competition for the best post of the day. Share your photos and your thoughts and comments, and we'll announce a winner with a bottle of bubbly later on, so please do that. And in addition, on your little cards, you'll see we've created a Facebook discussion group for today's event. So please log on to Facebook, search for the group and request to join, because that's where we'll be posting and discussing some of the themes raised today, and it's where we can continue this conversation beyond today's event as we move forward in implementing the principles and ideas that we're exploring here today. So I would like to wrap up by saying thank you to you all for being here today and for entering into the spirit of the day with your willingness to collaborate and share your thoughts and join in. And I'd also like to say thank you to Dave Kieft and Adrian Matthews from EFT Consult, who've been instrumental in putting this event together and whose determination to see this region taking action is truly inspiring. And I'm also grateful to Schneider as our event sponsor and to all our exhibitors, and I hope you'll take some time during the coffee and lunch breaks to check out the exhibition and talk to some of the businesses and organisations supporting the event. So it's my job now to hand over to Dr. Jane Davidson, who pioneered the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act when she was an Assembly member with the Welsh Government, and who is now Vice-Chancellor for Sustainability and Business Engagement at the University of Wales, Trinity St David. And Jane is going to chair the rest of this morning, and it will be a bit like musical chairs because we'll be bringing up our various panels, so listen out, you'll be called up if you're among the panel to sit on the stage and join in the discussion. So thank you, Jane. I'll ask you to take over from here. Thank you.
Dawn, thank you very much indeed, and can I congratulate for the region for this being the first big event. For those of us who have watched the early steps of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, it has been really noticeable that there has been an absence of a major discussion in Wales about what prosperity looks like, according to the Act. So I was really excited when For the Region decided to pick up this particular agenda in particular. And although we've got a range of experts as panellists, I also know from the in my complete inability to get from one end of the corridor to the other, we have a range of experts in this room in terms of contributing towards this debate. And what we want to do this morning is have a really high octane input where you are challenged and you are given the opportunity as well to put your immediate thoughts out there. And by putting your immediate thoughts out there, we'll be capturing those. We are videoing the performance, we'll be capturing those, and then we'll also have an opportunity to pick those up in the workshop this afternoon. But one of the experiences I learned from when I was in Welsh Government is that if you want to promote something quite difficult, that is really challenging in terms of people, culture and delivery, one of the things you have to do is to get people into the same place. There has to be a level playing field from which people are encouraged to develop their ideas. So with apologies to those people who know what a circular economy is, or at least according to Wikipedia, and apologies to those people who feel that they know the Act, what I want to do just at the front of the conference is to actually talk through what is there in law that we have the opportunity to work with as we take this agenda forward. So there it is, and I hope that you've got a chance with the additional screens to see this. But the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act does a number of different things. Not only is Wales the first country in the world to deliver this kind of commitment to putting sustainability at the heart of everything the public services that are responsible to Welsh Government need to do, but it has also redefined what sustainability looks like. Those of us who've been involved in the sustainable development agenda for many years are used to looking at the idea of a three-legged stool: economic, social and environmental. But I think what the Act does very cleverly, and I can lay no claim for this myself in the propositions that have now become the Act, is that now we have a fourth leg: culture. And many of us know that unless you tackle culture, both in its sense of culture and value inside organisations, as well as the wider definition of culture, heritage and identity in a country like Wales, then actually it is impossible to change what happens for the future. So now having four pillars in place in the context of the Act, laid out in legislation, means that these are the pillars against which people have to test the actions that they make. The other key element on this particular slide is the 7 well-being goals. And you can see them there, laid out in front of you. They are a jigsaw. There is no goal with primacy. People are meant to look at the goals also in relation to other goals. So from the yellow one on the top right-hand side, a prosperous Wales, a resilient Wales, a healthier Wales, a more equal Wales, a Wales of cohesive communities, a Wales of vibrant culture and thriving Welsh language, and a globally responsible Wales. We also have, in the context of the Act, 5 ways of working, and these are legislated for inside the Act. So the pillars are there, the goals are there, the 5 ways of working are there. And the 5 ways of working are what I've heard over many, many years of working in the public sector, both at local council level as well as at Welsh national level, are the kind of principles that the public service has been calling for in terms of actually delivering its objectives. That we should be looking to the long term, and that's about balancing short-term needs in terms of meeting long-term needs. We should be looking at how to prevent bad things coming down the line because of bad short-term decision making. So looking very clearly at a preventative agenda. And previously, in the context of my own political party, we used to talk about looking at the causes of crime. If you look back at the causes, you've got a much better opportunity in terms of looking at prevention. So how preventing problems occurring or getting worse will meet objectives. How to integrate the well-being objectives with other well-being goals. So you may be focused on a particular one, or 1 or 2 as an organisation, but actually how do you integrate that thinking with others? What kind of opportunity does actually the resilient Wales present in the context of really looking at mental health again, when we look at what a healthier Wales or more cohesive communities look like? How we act in collaboration together to achieve objectives, and how we must involve people in the process. This is co-creation. This isn't government deciding what's best for the people. Government or local government or other bodies determining needs by their own thoughts. It is about how you integrate the policy holders and the co-creator, people in the communities, people within the organisations, the stakeholders. And I think what's really interesting for those who may not have read the definition of the goals, and I'm only going to read out the top one, but a prosperous Wales is defined in legislation in Wales as an innovative, productive and low-carbon society which recognises the limits of the global environment and therefore uses resources efficiently and proportionately, including acting on climate change, and which develops a skilled and well-educated population in an economy which generates wealth and provides employment opportunities, allowing people to take advantage of the wealth generated through securing decent work. Now, as far as we're aware, there is no other country in the world that has legislated on what prosperity looks like. And it's a fundamental different type of prosperity that is described in the Act from the way in which previously we might have looked at prosperity in terms of more traditional elements. Now, the other goals also have their definitions in the Act, but if we focus particularly on the prosperity one linked to the idea of resilience and health and equality and cohesion and vibrant culture and thriving Welsh language, and then how a globally responsible Wales, which when it does anything to improve the economic, social, environmental and cultural well-being of Wales, takes account of whether doing such a thing may make a positive contribution to global well-being and the capacity to adapt to change, climate change. So this is an agenda which takes account of the big challenges facing us in the context of the UK and in the context of the world, and also looks at redefining what is of value. So this conference today, looking at the circular economy, gives us a big opportunity to look at how that redefinition can be turned into a set of policy agendas in Wales. And not policy agendas in Wales by the politicians, policy agendas in Wales co-created by people in Wales. And it also reads over to the Sustainable Development Goals. So if you just take Resilient Wales, for example, it can then link over to 6 of the Sustainable Development Goals, and that can be done with any of the goals. So there's also a read across to what countries are doing through the United Nations, and enabling, when Britain is looking at achieving the SDGs, what Wales can contribute towards that as well. The circular economy. I came across a range of definitions, so I decided to go with the Wikipedia one, knowing full well that when Professor Steve Evans speaks as our first speaker, if I'd come in front of you and said, this is my favourite definition of the first circular economy, Steve would make it his point to deconstruct it. So I thought, there you are. So I thought I'd just put it out there as this is the Wikipedia definition. But the critical elements, it seems to me, of it is that you minimise the, in terms of resource input and waste emission, energy leaking are minimised by slowing, closing and narrowing energy and material loops, achieved through long-lasting design, maintenance, repair, reuse, manufacturing, refurbishing and recycling, in contrast to a linear economy, which is a take, make and dispose model of production. And certainly in the work that I was previously able to do, and I'm delighted that Dr. Andy Rees is here from the Welsh Government, is when we were able to do the work on recycling together and set statutory recycling targets, that now means that Wales is up with the best in the world and heading to be best in the world on municipal recycling, we were absolutely focused on how we could, wherever possible, look at closed loop issues. But of course, we're also talking about reduction, because recycling is one part, but if you're really going to create a closed loop proposition, recycling is the end of the process. It's what you do on the way through that as well. So this, once again, according to Wikipedia, is the benefits of the circular economy. And this is what we want to test. Are these benefits we can with confidence create? Because the major proposition is that achieving a sustainable world does not require change in the quality of life of consumers, nor requires loss of revenues or extra costs for manufacturers and other economic agents. And I think that's a major test for people in this room today. Is that something that we can evidence? Is it something that can actually help us generate a new agenda for Wales? So to achieve models that are economically and environmentally sustainable, the circular economy focuses on areas such as design thinking, systems thinking, product life extension and recycling. And it's not what we do in the traditional economic model. Now those of you, and I know quite a few of you because I've been stopped on my way down the corridor, people saying, very ambitious conference today, a lot of people contributing. So what we'd like to do in the way that we do this is we have 25 minutes for each of the main sessions. We will invite our main speaker onto the stage who has 10 minutes to make their propositions. And we will then, when they finish, invite the panelists onto the stage, onto the chairs there. And we'll invite the panelists to make a short contribution in the context of what provocation they have received in the context of the main speaker, or what provocation they'd like to put out there. So that when we debate these issues in the streams this afternoon, we will have a set of propositions or questions in the air for people to take forward. If we do it that way, I'm hoping we will also be able to take 2 or 3 contributions from the floor in every single session. But it is going to involve us moving pretty quickly, and it is going to involve us concentrating all our minds and efforts today on trying to ensure that we get the maximum out of this high-octane morning session. So without any further ado, we'll start the first session with Professor Steve Evans, Director of Research, Industrial Sustainability at Cambridge University. Steve, a very warm welcome.
Bloody hell, how do you follow Jane? It's a hard one. I'm going to attempt to take up some of that challenge and be provoking. You'll see it's pretty obvious. I can start an argument in a room on my own. My job is to help sustainability scale and quickly as possible. We're not going to spend any time this morning explaining why this is important. I'm assuming you wouldn't be in the room unless you thought it was a little bit important. There are massive opportunities to build a better world in the space that we work in. It isn't just a negative conversation about stop doing bad stuff all the time. One of the things that we're interested in is how do you find those fantastic opportunities, and that's part of my job. I'm an engineer, so the way in which we solve problems is to look for root causes. And that's what I'm going to do this morning. I'm going to look at root causes of why the economy today isn't circular. If you understand those root causes, you find opportunities to do things better. So I'm not going to give you a list of solutions, but let's see if we can provoke a bit of understanding of why the system isn't circular today. The bit that I would like to take from Jane's definition of circular economy is actually, I think it was the second or third word. It's a system, and that's one of the reasons it's really hard. It talks about a regenerative system. There isn't a single thing that you can do that will deliver the circular economy. There's a whole bunch of things. And how do you tackle and understand what is the root cause of a poor system? And I just want to start by making a comparison. Jane has already done a very traditional one. The circular economy is often discussed by comparing it to the linear economy, the one that we have today. I want to make a different comparison to shed a different light because I think it helps. It's also rude, which is always fun. This is a bit of a thought experiment. It's amazing if you type something into Google what images you can find. This is what you find if you type golden poo, right? So I want to have a bit of a thought experiment. What happened if, for some amazing reason of Darwinian evolution, all of a sudden my poo became gold, right? You don't have to rush up and run behind me with a bucket. I'm imagining millions of years ago, if my ancestors made this particular change and their poo was golden. The problem is there's nothing in nature that eats gold, right? Oh my gosh. Can you see the problem there? Nothing. It accumulates. It doesn't matter how few children I have and children they have. Eventually, over immense periods of time, the world gets covered in golden poo, right? And that's the problem of the linear economy. The speed with which we're doing this today isn't taking millennia, it's taking decades, right? And some of it is quite golden, actually. There's people making good business out of it. How do we solve this problem in nature? Let's go to nature for the inspiration. Well, luckily, we've got a guy who knows the answer, right? By the way, I've only ever read 2 books, but it happens to be Darwin and Adam Smith, and that means I know everything about everything that you ever need to know, right? And I guarantee that the answers are in those 2 books, if you look deeply enough. So what did Darwin tell us? How do we solve the golden poo problem? Well, Darwin told us about variation. The problem started with my genes varying so that I generated this poo that nothing could eat, right? So we know about variation. And we know about selection. Darwin's much misused quote about survival of the fittest. If all that golden poo is out there, something is going to go, there's a lot of food that